welcome back. We are glad you are still with us. This is Good Morning Kenya. My name is Jen Wamboi. Now to continue with the day's discussion, remember you can always talk to us via our communication platforms. The hashtag ever remains Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Our official station handle is at KBC Television. My handle is Jen Wamboi, and of course our SMS number 20154. Now we want to move on to the next discussion, and this one is all about the flower industry here in Kenya. Just try and understand how the situation is on ground as we build up towards the conference that will be happening in about 2 weeks' time here in Kenya. It is the 4th and the 3rd edition of those two conferences. We'll be letting you know what they are all about in not too long. But to help us with this discussion, to better understand the state of the flower industry here in Kenya, I have two guests with me. I'll start with the gent to my immediate left. He is Clement Tulezi, who is the CEO of the Kenya Flower Council. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Jane.
Glad to have you this morning.
Thank you.
And to his left, and my furthest left, we have Hannah Nyinge, who is the director of Elysium Flower Design and Decorations. Karibu sana.
Asante.
Glad to have you as well.
Thank you.
All right, so any questions, any comments or clarifications that you may be needing, feel free to send them through via the communication platforms that I have just issued. So we wanted to just understand the state of the flower industry here in Kenya. And maybe I could start with you, Hannah. You are a florist, you're in the business of selling flowers. So maybe you could tell us a bit about, from your experience, how the journey has been and when you even started in the flower business.
Well, when I got started, it was back in 2009. That's when I got into the business myself.
Okay.
It's been a journey that I've enjoyed so much, because I don't just do it as business, but also as passion.
Yeah.
I know so many people were really amused that I had to venture into this business, even including my own family, because they were not satisfied on what I'm exactly doing, since I was taking a different course on the same.
All right.
But all of a sudden, I say that I want to venture into flowers.
All right. You'll be telling us what were the reasons as to why you decided to venture, because I'm sure there's something you saw. Kuna kitu uliona. All right, well, let me come to you, Mr. Clement. In terms of the figures, that, the flower industry holds here in Kenya. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, we are the most progressive industry in Kenya. If you look at the figures in terms of the value of what comes out of the flower industry, and also the volumes. You'll always see figures like we are the major export to Europe, commanding almost 40% of the market share in Europe.
Imagine.
You will see numbers like we employ up to 150,000 people within this industry. You will see figures like we have managed to export in 1 year over 163,000 tons of flowers out of this country. And we support up to 4 million Kenyans who depend or who eat and make livelihoods out of this industry. So we are a huge industry. We have made big strides in the last 10 years. In the last 5 years alone, I think we have done like 3 times what we were selling before. I mean, many years ago, when we talk about the flower industry, it was a small industry, but we have managed to make big strides. Based on the fact that we have been more organized. We know the trade, we know how it is done, both locally in terms of how we grow and how we access the markets, and we are still growing. Some of the figures, if you see from the official government records of what we sold last year, is in the tune of 38% growth. That is unbelievable for Kenya today, when even 10% growth is huge. But if you talk about 38%, it sounds completely unrealistic. But that is what it is, that we have been able to move really big volumes. And we have accessed markets that are more traditional in Europe, but now we are venturing more into the new and emerging markets, including Asia, the Americas, Russia, United Arab Emirates, and Australia, and Japan, and all the rest that we are venturing in, and we have a long-term view of this business. All
right, and we'll be looking at how Kenya is even investor ready, and the effectiveness of being investor ready for our country. But let me come to you, Hannah. Just looking back to when you started, was the industry as accommodative as it is right now?
Well, when I got started, by then it was not as competitive and accommodative as now. As so far, we've made steps. We've even managed to go further in the way we do our business. From back to 009 up to now, I would say that flower business has really improved.
It has improved.
Yeah, in terms of profits, in terms of even maneuvering into different type of markets. We have been able to manage so well.
And especially here within the country on a local scale,
Yes.
Are we consuming as much as we are producing, in as much as, we don't really know the figures, but from what you have seen in the market, are we consuming rather locally as much as we are exporting?
Well, like of late, there has been a shortage of flowers. The local market, I think, or in terms of buying the flowers from the farms, it's become a bit down.
Okay.
So sometimes, like the months of August and December, including April, that is when we have maximum flower thing going on. So we end up not having enough for what we can use, especially in terms of roses. And even other flowers. But when it comes to after what we manage to finish in terms of functions, then we have a lot of flowers in the market, of which not much use for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the local flower industry has also grown a lot. As much as we say we're almost 100% export, but the around 4 or 5% of the flowers that go to the local market has continued to grow. I think if you look across Nairobi, you can see around corners and a lot of the malls. Now we have more kiosks coming up in all the major markets, like the Westlands market, the City market, and others. You can see the numbers of people who have looked at this as a business growing. In fact, many years ago, we established, as Kenya Flower Council, we helped to establish what we were calling the Flower Vendors Association. And I think she was a part of these. And the aim was that we, as much as we want our flowers to be consumed in the international market, we also want a local appreciation of the flowers, because it's a livelihood, it's a business, and so many people can depend on it and be able to make out their lives, selling flowers. And we believe we have quality flowers, we have enough that can be appreciated by the local community. In fact, we have also another venture that in a few weeks, I think about 2 or 3, we shall be having a show just for Kenyans to appreciate flowers somewhere in Runda. And we believe that with this kind of appreciation, people will come in and be able to buy. Even in terms of taste, is changing. I see younger people now coming in and thinking about flowers as they continue to probably interact with people from the Western world who are more accustomed to appreciating flowers. That is coming in a bit. And we're encouraging, especially old men, we are saying, can you make sure that you buy a flower? Not just for Valentine's.
Occasionally. Not occasionally.
Every week you make a habit of just coming to, home with a bunch of flowers or some stems of roses. It makes a huge difference. I always say this, that a lot of people in the West, they live many years because they invest in non-monetary things that has just aesthetic value. It doesn't bring back the monetary benefit, but is important for the mind, and that helps them to grow. To grow and live much longer. We need to start investing in that. But we have seen a huge growth in terms of locally how people appreciate.
I have also noted a growth in how we appreciate flowers, especially in the recent years, and also especially among the younger generation. The old folk are still wondering, I see as a plastic, they last forever. You know, we need to try and change that narrative. But now let's quickly have a look at some of a few aspects here that have a direct, impact in the flower industry and the horticulture industry as a whole. And let's just start with climate change. You know, over the last few years, there has been so much change that has been in the climate. How has that affected the flower industry directly? Maybe I could hear from you, Hannah, first. You know, in terms of where you source for your flowers, has there been an issue due to the way we have been seeing climate change happening?
Definitely, yes.
Yes.
When it comes to when it is very cold, there's a big shortage of flowers. When it comes to when it is very hot, still there's a shortage of flowers.
The extreme weathers.
Yes, the two extreme weathers. But if the weather is moderate, we have enough and we can even do so much with it.
Okay.
But all the same, there are so many consumers. People have really learned to appreciate flowers in Kenya. And that's why we find that the flowers come and they go. They come and go.
Yeah.
But not as before when only old people used to buy the flowers. But now even the young generation is appreciating
them.
And actually you can get a bigger market from the younger generation more than the old generation. Although there are people who normally rely on the older generation as well as
those who understand.
Yeah. It depends on where your market hook is. Yes.
All right. Now, in terms of even just looking at the climate again, what more do you feel we need to do? Because, you know, as is, we depend on the weather mostly as opposed to having greenhouses for the flowers. In just trying to employ solutions that could actually help when it comes to how the climate behaves, because, you know, it's as a result of what we're doing that is affecting the climate. Maybe suggestions in regards to what the people and we can do to just try and help curb these issues that come with climate change.
Well, with the climate changes, there's always an option because the people, the growers, they know how to work on that. And sometimes you find that even if there's such a big shortage, at the end of the day, you still find something. So even if there's totally a bad weather for the flowers, we still have something. So we can't say that totally we have nothing.
So
we
the farmers
still
have
manage
found a
to
way of
have,
adapting.
Yes.
Okay.
Even if we have little, but we still have some. And even if you're not using this type of flower, there's another one in season. So you can opt on alternating.
All right.
Yes.
Let me hear your thoughts as well in regards to climate change.
I think climate change is a reality that we are dealing with.
Yeah.
And for us as an industry, we are not cushioned against it. Because when there is too much rain,
it's a problem.
It's a problem because diseases set in, like botrytis and all the rest, they set in. But also because of the cold, in terms of production, you know, the stem growing to the length that is required is much lower on colder weather. When it's hot, the production could be higher, but we're experiencing more pests, and that is really a huge problem.
Big problem.
For us. And you understand that the issues of phytosanitary, plant health are crucial for us if we have continued to grow as an industry. Now, the mitigation is that if you go to most of the farms now, there are areas that have been set aside to grow trees. So every flower farm has an area that is set, almost like a quarter of the farm has just been set aside to grow trees. And we believe that over time, as we continue to increase the vegetative cover, then we should be able to start mitigating what we call the micro climate within those areas where predominantly we grow flowers. Say this is Naivasha. Naturally, Naivasha is semi-desert, but because the farms have invested much more in terms of growing trees, you can see that there is a lot of rain now in Naivasha as opposed to previous years. So this is a mitigation factor that we are also bringing in. And when we do our audits, we always make sure that every farmer demonstrates that they have the mitigating climate. We have brought in also projects geared towards that, encouraging everyone. We have done tree planting programs within the farms as part of our CSR programs, and this has helped really to mitigate that. But going forward, I think is an area that collectively as a country we need to focus on, not just for us. We can do so much, but because we basically have about 4,000 hectares that we grow flowers on, we need much more for everyone to come on board and be able to partner with us and help us to grow more trees. Because if we continue this way, we will not have an industry. For us, we are an industry that depends a lot on water, energy, labor, chemicals and fertilizers. You know, those are huge inputs for us. And anytime we miss to get enough water, or there is delays in rainfall, then we have a problem. A lot of the farms have lagoons and have dams that help to mitigate shortage of water. But a lot of the water we also draw from our greenhouses, rainwater. We collect every drop from the greenhouses so that we are not strained, because anytime we don't have water, we don't have an industry. We cannot grow. I mean, a few months ago, when we did not have rain, back in around
the greater part of last
March,
year as well, and early
March
this year.
And before, a lot of growers were calling me, asking me, what do we do? Because our dams have dried up. And they've also invested a lot of money in doing dams. I know that they could have been a problem, I need to mention this, with the dams, but that is the only thing that we have currently. People are coming in saying, oh, you are using a lot of water, you are using water from the streams. We are very prudent users of water, right from the waters, a few places where we draw water from the natural rivers or streams, or where we have to draw water from underground. We are very prudent in the way we manage that water. Every drop means a lot for us. Means a lot for us, because we want to be in this industry today and tomorrow. So we have to make sure that
we
that
keep
happens.
The industry alive.
Exactly.
And you know, just that actually brings us to the next aspect, and that is the cost of production. You know, over the years, it has been increasing due to one reason or the other. You know, just sourcing for water sources to make sure that the water remains constant throughout the season. It means you have to invest more. Now, when it comes to the cost of production, and you know, what more can be done to just sort of mitigate it and put a cap on it, or even curb it, especially for small-scale farmers here in the industry? Let me hear from you.
I think everyone, it's not just the smallholders only. I think everyone. Sometimes we think, oh, the larger ones have all the monies and have all the systems. No, everyone is struggling. We have always to make sure that everyone is cushioned so that we continue in business. But the cost of production in Kenya is extremely high compared to our competitors, including Ethiopia, who is just there next door, including Uganda. Uganda, yes, but Uganda is small time. But we are talking about, when we talk about the major growers of flowers, we're talking about Kenya, Ecuador, Colombia, and Ethiopia as the major 4 producers of cut flowers. And maybe in terms of the selling now, we also bring in Netherlands, which is really big, a big business for them. Now, when you look at how much we use in terms of resources to be able to produce one stem, it's quite expensive compared to our neighbors like Ethiopia. The cost of energy here is extremely high compared to our competitors. Labor costs, we pride ourselves in the expertise that we have in terms of skills, but on the other hand, it also comes at a premium. And we have a push from the unions and the government to continue increasing every year with the CBAs, you know, the bargaining agreements coming in. Yes, coming in every year. There is a percentage, maybe 7%, 10%, and the cost of labor has become completely unsustainable in most of the farms. Another input like fertilizers, it's a problem. It's not just on the cost. You remember last year, our industry was almost coming down because we had a shortage of fertilizers on something that should have been sorted out much easier than the way the approach it was given. That was a big problem. We find that chemicals that we use, the reality is that we cannot produce flowers without the use of chemicals. That is the reality. Pests have become more adaptive in the way we produce, and therefore without injecting in some artificial chemicals to be able to control. And we are dealing with markets that are very stringent.
Okay.
A market like Australia is just zero pest, full stop. A market like the European market is now about FCM, and they're saying the FCM have to zero. So we cannot control that without the use of chemicals. But there are two problems. The first one is that there is a debate on the use of chemicals. People are saying, oh, the chemicals are coming in and they are the ones causing cancer and all that, which is not really true. There are no studies
around GMOs.
Yes, no studies have been done to actually prove that. What we need to be debating right now is the safe use of those chemicals. But the other problem is that we have to look at the cost of those chemicals in the long run, because it's pretty high, and we have to use them every day. You know, so that is a problem for us. I'll give you an example. Sometimes when we arrive in the export market, our competitors are coming in with a kilo of flowers selling at $2.4. Ours is at $3.8. How competitive can we be? It's the same product. So for prices in the market where buyers are not flexible in terms of looking at us and saying, oh, we'll be given preferential treatment, it's just a product, and therefore we cannot compete. And this just goes back to the cost of production. We just think that the government needs to take us serious, because we are a #2 export commodity from Kenya. Okay. And because of that, we need to be given some preferential treatment in terms of rebates, in terms of discounts, in terms of tax reliefs,
and
so that we are able to
some
do
of those, areas that need to be addressed, just try and help, so that even the farmer down at the grassroots can actually feel the impact coming from the government. Let me come to you, Hannah. In terms of the cost of production, you as the florist, you as the almost end seller, how has it been for you over the years in terms of even buying the flowers from the different farmers, depending whether they're in season or not in season? How has that been for you?
Well, like when we're buying the flowers, we find that when there's shortage, we end up buying more expensive. And you see, you cannot, like, I'm used to supplying you with the flowers. I cannot charge you more because I got them on a higher price. So with that, we find that even if the market is good at that time, but us who are the users, we end up getting very low profits on such a season, because we're spending more, and you cannot go raise your flowers because the flowers are not there, and the market is competitive. So you've got to go with it. So you end up not making much, but you still make up your margin when the flowers are there. You buy them cheaper, and you can even be able to work on your profit margins. To
break even.
Yeah.
And in most cases, the end consumer, the customer, might not understand if you sort of take the prices higher.
No, they cannot take that. Unless you leave it to your competitor. Because people who are buying from the market themselves, you see, they're not like, the wholesalers are not like retailers. Because wholesalers can be able to lower their profit margin, but you are a retailer, so that is how we compete. So there's that big competition, unless if we have regular supply of what you are getting from the farms, still it is a major distraction for us.
All right.
Yeah.
Now back to speaking solutions in terms of even the role of the government when it comes to sort of helping when it comes to the cost of production for the farmers and also the marketers, the whole value chain.
Yes.
Let me start with you, Hannah. Your suggestions in terms of, are areas in which the government can quickly come in and have that direct input that would go a long way in helping to bring down the cost of production?
Well, like, okay, there's a time we used to have the flower council, and somehow it went down, but they really assisted us in setting up different places for selling our flowers, and comfortably we sell them without any disturbance. There's a time people would put flowers, and city council is just on them, they're taken away. But nowadays, because of the flower council, they've really worked on that. Nobody is asked, you go put your flowers somewhere, nobody will ask you. You will sell. Unless if you are indisciplined, you put your garbage there, then that one is not a point of you're going to be there tomorrow. But if you're clean enough, you set your akakibada somewhere, you will still go on selling, and
as
that
long
is
as you maintain hygiene standards.
Yes, and
Okay.
that is a very good thing.
All right.
Unless if you go to the shops, you see we are small vendors. So if you go to the shops, you cannot manage to pay the rent. If you can't manage to pay the rent, that is how you end up on the street. And on the streets, there are so many challenges. Still, there are clients who can't come buy on the streets, and there are clients who can buy from the shops. So, if, in between, at least if we can be able to be assisted on getting regular supplies and having the right type of flowers, I think we can manage to go far.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Your thoughts as well when it comes to the role, especially of the government, because you know there's a direct link between the industries and the government.
Yeah. I think we need to look at government, both tiers, the national government and the county government. What is affecting us more now is on the levies and the taxation.
Taxes.
We are paying up to 42 taxes between the national government and the county government. We are caught in between the war where there's no harmonization of taxation between the devolved governors, national government and county government. So every day you always hear us talking about double taxation, and that is a big thing, including things like cess, which we are paying to the national government, and most of the counties are claiming also a share of it directly from us, not sharing what we have already given to the national government. It's causing us massive losses because we have sometimes to go to court to challenge some of those decisions made by the counties. And so all the taxation now, taxation has become a major thing for us. How government can support us is let them come in. We are not saying the government should not regulate, but we are saying that let the regulation be more practical and more facilitative and not standing in the way for us doing business.
Okay.
Because all these have to come in terms of how much we are able to sell, in terms of pricing at the end of the day. But the prices, she's talking about, Anna is talking about the local market, also internationally. This year we have had the lowest prices ever in the international market because there was a lot of flooding of especially roses from our competitors into the market. And the buyer in the international market is not willing to bring down to up the price because we have used much more in terms of production than our competitors. So this is affecting us. So I will talk about the levies and the fees and the taxation that is in there. Harmonization, 1, 2, is that you find the different even regulators claiming the same fee. I will give you an example. We have something we call the affluent fee discharge that is claimed by 2 agencies that are all government, saying we are the ones who are entitled to it. And so long as we pay one, we are comfortable. But the other one also coming in saying, oh, we are the ones entitled. So we have those kind of things.
They
so
need
that
to
is
harmonize all these charges and fees.
Exactly.
That come.
So that is a big thing. Number 2, as I mentioned earlier, is energy. Energy cost. We have farms that are paying up to 10 million, 20 million per month just on energy because we have to run the entire system, including the cold chain, the cold stores 24/7. And we are huge consumers of power. So I believe that with that kind of consumption, we can be given rebates. Looking at the volumes that we consume, let the government come in and say, okay, for this sector that consumes a lot, we can give them certain discounts that will make the bills come down considerably.
Yeah.
So that is a big thing. Number 3 is on access to inputs. You find even machinery that you're bringing in, the taxation on it, because in terms of investment, we don't have all the inputs we need. We have to import a lot of these things, including fertilizers. Including fertilizers, yes, because we don't produce the soluble fertilizers in this country. We have to import them. But they're coming at a very high cost. So all this comes in to be able, to push the pricing of our commodities up. But then add that to we have the highest freight costs You know, when flowers are leaving this country,
exported.
Yes, the cost of exporting the flowers is quite expensive. And now we have moved into what we call volumetric as opposed to weight, and which is now the space you are taking, the cost on that, and that has become very, very expensive for us.
Okay.
We would want the government to support us more on accessing water. Water is a major issue for us.
All around.
Yes, it's a major issue for us. People are investing in now in millions of Kenya shillings to create lagoons and all that, and also for energy they're putting in a lot of solar panels, costing a lot of money for things that we think government can come in and support us much more. The availability of land is also a big thing. A lot of people now are leasing land at a very exorbitant prices. And if we have to increase our hectareage, maybe from the current 4,000 to 5,000 or 6,000 in a short while, availability of land has to be there.
Okay.
We find that we have a few people who have too much land, and which is not accessible to us.
And they're not doing anything with it.
Yes, which is just lying fallow.
Okay.
I mean, they can give us, and we'll make good use of it to bring more money into this country and also create more jobs.
And build the economy.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's so much that needs to be done around the cost of production for just a single piece of rose to just help in the overall chain.
Yes.
The value chain depends a lot on so much on the cost of production. So, you know, you can imagine where we are right now with all these challenges in the cost of production. What if it was an easier process? What if it was cheaper to produce flowers? Then how much more would we be earning as a country? You know, we wouldn't be hearing of these competitions. And now that also brings me to another aspect, and that is the public perception. You've just mentioned the whole issue of leasing land from, you know, common wananchi, they have land, they want to lease it out, but they do it at such insane prices because they think this flower industry has a lot of money that, you know, comes and goes easily. When it comes, let me start with you, Hannah. When it comes to the public perception and how we look at flowers, is it doing the flower industry any good, or we need to change our attitude and perceptions towards the flower industry and stop looking at it as just, you know, ni maua tu?
That needs to change the attitude.
Yeah.
Because everyone thinks that people dealing with flowers, they make a lot of money.
And especially when customers even come to your shop and they're like, why so expensive?
Yes.
The perception.
Yes, and they don't know that you've gone to buy those flowers, it's costed you transport, it's costed you even to preserve them. So they tend to think that, okay, flowers are cheap.
Yes.
But they don't know that everything you have to work on it for it to be the way it is.
Yes.
Like if you put flowers there and they come to buy this one you've just nut from the farm and you're selling to me at an exorbitant price. Yeah. We've had challenges, even us. And when people are dealing with flower people, they tend to think that you're minting money, of which sometimes you even sell at a throwaway price. You're not making much out of it, or even you're selling at a flat rate. Simply because I went to buy the flowers, someone else is buying at a more better price than I'm buying. So you don't expect me to make more than
the other
person.
Okay.
So I think we need to change the perception about flowers, yeah.
All right. Your thoughts as well, comment when it comes to the public perception. When I'm just thinking of flowers as just akani kama ua kata, it'll wither, I have to throw it away, fertilizer, kwa shamba, ishe. Public perception, and the direct effect that it has on the industry.
You just need to know. I always say that producing a flower, say, let me pick a rose or a carnation or whatever it is, it's very scientific. And because of that, the process is cumbersome and very, very expensive. I'll give you an example. It's not just the public, even people who you expect that they know some of these things. I met a certain politician a few weeks ago, and I was introduced to him. And you know what he said?
Yes.
The first thing he said, "Oh, you are the CEO of the rich people." You know, that is what he said.
Perception is already there.
Yeah, so you can imagine someone who you expect is an elitist and an opinion leader within the society, saying that. That is not true. The margins within the flower industry are very, very small. The only thing that helps us is that we grow these 24/7 and we export.
Constant supply.
Yes, but in terms of the margins, they're very, very lean, very, very small. In fact, a lot of people, I always say, if you compare, if the maize industry was flourishing, probably the margins would even be better than what we find in the flower industry.
Yeah.
But the thing is that we are resilient, and every day we wake up thinking how we can become better in accessing the markets. As I told you, this year the prices in the international markets were horrible.
Yes.
And so we have not got as much as we would have expected. Even when you look at the statistics now, between January and June this year, we dropped in our sales by almost 9 billion Kenya shillings.
Wow.
And that is not good. We were expecting a growth, but instead we may get a negative growth with that kind of trend. So it's just a public perception that is not really true, but we need to also pay a premium on this product.
Yes.
It's produced expensively. People elsewhere appreciate it as a premium product.
So what do we need to do to just change that perception for people to understand that it's not just a kamaua, it's not just a pretty thing?
I think we have to invest much more in educating people.
Yeah.
We educate people. And now we are moving as Kenya Flower Council, we are partnering with the local associations to do more expo, exposing people to what this flower is about. If they understand the story behind that flower and how it's produced, that perception would automatically change after a while. So we have to do this much more, educate people.
Yes.
I don't think there is enough in terms of information for people to know about flowers. I will tell you, and this I think is a fact, many years people used to associate this industry as a foreign industry, but it's a Kenyan industry. By every right is a Kenyan industry. We don't have enough in terms of investment, so we may get foreign investment into the industry, but it's purely Kenyan. Because we grow here, the knowledge, we employ up to 99.999% of Kenyans into this industry. So it's not a foreign industry by any chance.
Okay.
We have a lot of Kenyans now, entrepreneurs who have ventured into this, and almost now 3/4 of the farms are actually owned by indigenous Kenyans.
All right.
And even those who may not look indigenous are actually Kenyans because they were born here, they grew up here, they're Kenyans like anyone else, and they have the freedom to invest in whatever business it is. So this is just a public perception, but I think it can change with more education.
More awareness needs to be created around the flower industry. Once people understand the numbers, then they'll be like, hey, okay. There's more to it than just, looking at a flower. Now, let's quickly move along and look at the conference. This conference is going to be happening on the 23rd and the 24th. And the theme for the Flower Logistics Africa Conference is making flower trade sustainable economically, environmentally, and digitally. Let's start with digitally. The digital transformation that is happening, how is it being embraced in the flower industry?
I think for us we have not been left behind. All our trade in the international market is now online. We are among the few industries that manage the supply chain probably from the beginning to the end.
Okay.
A lot of industries, people come in at different stages to manage the entire supply chain. But for us, a grower always manages from the time of planting, what we call propagation, all the way to the entire production and post-production, up to the time it's living here, and some even much more into the market, knowing where the flower goes. So we manage the entire value chain. And it's not possible for you to do that without embracing technology. And now we are moving not just from how we use it in the marketplace in terms of seeking markets and selling, but also at the farm level. Our production processes are becoming much more technological driven. The systems like what we call fertigation, mixing of both irrigation and nutrients at the same time. It's completely computerized, where you don't have to use a manual or someone thinking through it, but it's digitalized in a system where everything, you know, the environment tells you this is what you need to do at this point. You need to irrigate with this much water or this type of fertilizer. So it's something that we have embraced in the industry. And without that, we don't think that there is a way forward. It brings in efficiency because the profit margins are low. And therefore, if we are not efficient in the way we do all our processes at different levels, we'll be left behind. Everything has now gone into the system, including linking up with the government systems at the point of exit. So it's completely digitalized now. And that is the way to go.
So as the council, you have really championed for, you know, embracing the whole digital and technological innovations that are coming.
Yes. In fact, in our new strategy, we have something we are calling innovation for sustainability. This industry is a difficult industry. You cannot survive without looking at sustainability. And this is not just looking at elements such as social, good actual practices and environment, but also you have to have a long-term view of managing that business, because a small change that you make could just be the tipping point where you fall off the ground. So a lot of people who are not innovative and who are not bringing in technology probably will not survive in this industry in the long run.
Hannah, your thoughts also when it comes to embracing the technological innovations that are coming, especially as a marketer who is in business with these flowers. Do you feel like, you know, technology has a direct input in how you're able to sell your product?
Yes, it has. Because people have really grown out of the norm. You sell a basket, someone else has a different design altogether. So if you remain selling baskets, you end up not getting clients unless if someone wants just a passing by flower. But if you really on technology, you go upgrading your work each and every time. That is a way to remain in business now. But otherwise, if you just do the norm, you are doomed. You cannot get anywhere. Right now, people who are doing events, they are getting photos from the internet. They send to you. So how do you go about it? And you have to present that particular item the client wants.
As is.
Yes, as it is, or even better. So you really have to go think out of the box, and you have to up your game for you to be able to sell through. So, because there are people who are really selling at exorbitant prices because of their technology. But if you remain just there, you're not going to make it right
and
now.
Innovation does also attract the end consumer.
Definitely. There's a client who doesn't mind about paying for your flowers as long as he or she can see the presentation, the way it is, and even, you know, there are better flowers which are coming up. People are even pulling down on I want export quality flowers, but export quality flowers, for us to manage to buy them, it is very high on us. So I don't know how the government would assist on that for us to be able to purchase that export quality flower. Otherwise, the ones that are sold locally, they're not as good quality as the export ones.
There's a bit of compromise between the two.
Yes. If we can manage to get the export quality ones, as well as we are able to combine different kinds of flowers, there are even those which are sold locally and even export, but their prices are exorbitant, like the orchids. Orchids, you know, they're very expensive. And clients now, they're used to knowing that they're orchids and they're export quality flowers. How can the government help on that?
Do you think that is also contributing to the perception that the people have about the flower industry? You know, the fact that there is a difference between what is sold locally and what is exported, given that we are sort of given, for the local market, sort of the second grade, and what is being exported is first grade. Do you think that compromise also contributes to, you know, public perception, as you saying, people coming saying nataka export quality, si ya kawaida?
Yes, because people travel abroad and they see what kind of flowers are there. So when they come here, they wonder why do you sell this kind of flowers to us?
Produce it.
Yes,
okay.
And we are the producers, we are the main producers. Why do you sell to us this kind of flowers?
Okay.
So with that, we find that the market is not bad, but we can't say that it's very good. Now, regarding the kind of money you're going to pay for the export as well as the local.
Okay.
Yeah, if we can manage to bridge the gap between the export and the local, at least with that we can manage to market ourselves more.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, from the council's point of view, the fact that there's sort of two breeds that are being sold, first grade and second grade, and this is coming from the farmer because they're looking at how much I'm going to make. If I sell this locally, I'm going to make as much as I'm going to make when I export them. What more do you feel needs to be done to just assure the farmer that even if you sell it locally, in as much as it costed more to produce, you will still benefit, as opposed to kusema hii ni ya local, hii ni ya export?
Well, you just need to understand that the farms are in business.
Yes.
And anyone who is in business is about the profit or the margin they're going to make out of it. I think it still goes back to the local appreciation. If we know how this flower is produced, and we are willing to put in a premium, we don't mind selling it locally.
Okay.
But also we are calling on those who are selling locally, like the florist, to become more innovative. If you go to Europe, for example, the kind of bouquets that are done there, they are mind-boggling. I mean, you look at a presentation and you say, this is worth it. So we are calling on the local sellers or vendors to be more creative in the way they're doing this. And if you are more innovative, especially in presentation and what you are able to have on a bouquet, then it will probably look much more presentable than it is when you just have some 2 or 3 bunches of the same flower tied together. You don't expect that will fetch you much.
Yeah.
So that innovation has to come in, because presentation is everything on flowers, because you know that this is something that has only an aesthetic value. It's not food, it doesn't bring in more money to you, but it's what catches the eye, and therefore the way you present it will just make a difference. But if the local market proves that yes, they can be able to come in and be able to consume the much more premium flowers, then we will actually be able to supply. In some of these...
But who does that change need to start with? Is it the farmer or the end user?
Both, because it's all demand driven.
Yes.
At the end of the day. In some of these royal weddings that have happened in Europe, we supplied, some of our growers actually supplied to the royal weddings that have happened recently. And that cost a lot, because they appreciate that we have one of the best qualities in the world in terms of flowers. And it comes at a premium. But also in terms of growing it, it's expensive. You don't expect a premium rose without having invested a lot in it. So
both the farmer and the end user need to sort of come to an agreement and say, Nisawa, it costed you this much, I'm willing to pay this much, as long as you don't compromise on the quality.
Exactly.
And you don't compromise on the price. All right, so it's a double-edged sword. Now let's quickly have a look at this conference. Maybe you tell us what it's about. I understand, the Flower Logistics Africa is the 4th edition, and the Perishables Logistic Africa Conference is the 3rd edition. Tell us a bit about what they each is about, and what it even means for the farmers here in Kenya.
This conference, now we are proud as the Kenya Flower Council to be a major partner, one of the 2 important partners on this conference. And we partner on it because we know what it means when we are able to change perceptions or the image around the flower industry in Kenya, especially to the international market, but also locally. So this is the 4th edition of the Flower Logistics Africa, and we have participated in the previous one. The idea behind it is that there are areas that are critical for the industry, and especially the areas of logistics and the areas of investment and phytosanitary issues, which if left behind, we will have a huge ramification on this industry. This is an opportunity for players who are within the industry, both from the growers' end, exporters, grower exporters, to those who are involved in logistics, those who are involved in phytosanitary or plant health.
The whole value chain.
The entire value chain to come together and look at the challenges that are there, not just locally, but also internationally. As we grow flowers, as we produce here, are we having the right systems? Are we having the right infrastructure to be able to ferry these flowers into the international market? When it gets to the international market, what happens? What kind of barriers are we experiencing? Are they have they got to do with phytosanitary or technical barriers or non-tariff barriers that are in this market? And what can we do? How can we pull all our synergies together to be able to surmount some of those challenges?
Okay.
These are the things that we've been discussing, and out of these, early this year we managed to form what we call the logistics working group. And this brings in people who are basically helping us to move this product from the farm all the way to the market, to look at the challenges in between, because it's an important part of the supply chain.
Okay.
And sometimes we don't have avenues or forums to discuss some of these challenges and being able to pull these all together.
Okay.
And so this is what basically this is what we always do in these forums, and we have seen a lot of changes in the way we are working now with the airlines, for example, the way we are working with freighters, the way we are working with packaging companies, the way we are working with marketers especially in the international market,
the
pulling in everyone. Yes, so that is really good. Okay. The other side, which is actually the third edition, is basically looking at the perishable, and it's more on the fruits and vegetable side, because wholesomely, I mean, together we always come together and say we are horticulture. Even when we are fronting a lot of things, you find that there is a commonality in terms of challenges between flowers, fruits, vegetables, spices, and herbs. We always deal almost with the same issues. And therefore, this is a forum for us also to come in and see then what can we do to access more of the markets on our fruits, on our vegetables, and all the rest.
Now, let me come to you, Hannah. Do you understand the benefits that this, as a marketer, as a florist, do you feel that this conference actually has benefits you as, part of the value chain?
Yes, if at all the congregation has to be educated on the proper use of flowers, and they just have to know that flowers are perishables. They're not there to last forever, because a client can come to you and ask you, how long is this going to last me? But it all depends on how you're going to take care of the flower. If you don't change the water, the flowers will die as quickly as possible. If you do change the water, your flowers will last. And so with that, if the client base that we have, if they know how to take care of the flowers, and even know how to differentiate between the price of the export and the local, with that, I am sure we can be able to get far, as well as to differentiate between the expensive flowers and the cheaper flowers. Because a client is coming to you and tells you, give me lilies. And lilies are 1,000 shillings a bunch. Surely, how can you sell the same bunch of flowers for the price of roses? You see, there's a huge difference. If it is orchids, it is from 800 shillings onwards, a bloom of flower.
Wow!
Just one bloom. So that is a huge difference. But people will call you and tell you, I want orchids, I want export roses, I want anthuriums. Surely, yes. How much can you sell such kind of an arrangement?
So also the public has a lot to learn from this conference.
Yes, they need to learn. They need to learn, actually, for them to be able to know what exactly I'm asking for and how much exactly I'm supposed to pay for what I'm asking for.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, there's a message I'd like for you, Clement, to address here. There's one who's saying, thank you for the discussion. Mr. Clement is doing a remarkable job at the Kenya Flower Council. Been working in the flower industry for the last 4 years. But question is, I still don't really understand the role and mandate of the Kenya Flower Council. Maybe you can answer that very briefly, the mandate of the Flower Council.
Okay, it's quick. Our mandate is actually to take care of the flower industry. We do that by being able to lobby on all the challenges that have part of this industry. We do that by helping to open up markets, negotiating on tariffs and non-tariff barriers, talking to all the major players within the international market, representing the Kenya industry in there. We also support the growing through education and also the audits and certification that are quite important for you to continue doing business and accessing the international market. So our mandate is really wide. We almost manage the entire value chain on behalf of the growers. It's very difficult for you to continue growing flowers in this country without someone representing you at those different levels, both in terms of helping you to know how to grow, and also working with government and other partners in between, and also accessing the market. It becomes very difficult.
Now he goes on to ask, what is KFC doing, that is Kenya Flower Council? What are they doing, especially where struggling farms close business and employees lose lots of money in unpaid salaries that goes as far as 6 months?
That is an issue we are dealing with. And you need to understand that we are a voluntary membership organization, and therefore our mandate, we may not have all the mandate to act as we want, but working closely with government agencies that have been given mandate to be able to intervene, like the Ministry of Labor. This is one thing that we were doing. Yesterday we had a meeting with the Minister of Labor, the CS Labor, discussing some of these matters. And therefore it's important for him to understand that we are intervening. One is that for any farm who has a problem paying, we always call it, in our audit, we call it a major must when it comes to wages and the welfare of workers. It's a serious matter. We first withdraw the certification because we cannot certify you if that is your practice. Therefore, we block you from accessing the market. And therefore, that ties your hand in terms of being able to comply. So we look at all matters of compliance and escalate these now with government agencies who are able to intervene and who have the legal mandate to enforce some of the things that needs to be done.
All right. Unfortunately, we have to wind the conversation there due to the constraint of time. But in just a statement, your closing remarks to the public in regards to this conference in under 30 seconds, and I mean 30 seconds. Yes.
That is really short.
Yes.
Of course, there is so much to talk about. About this conference. I think is a welcome idea for us to underscore what is needed in this industry.
When will it be happening?
It will be happening on 24th and 25th of this month.
Are there any platforms where people can reach out for more information?
Yes, they are. Both on social media, you can always access what is happening, including there will be recordings that you can play and be able to understand what is happening there. But the thing is also for the industry, we need people to just appreciate that this is their industry. Kenyans to appreciate. We have come under a lot of media attack on some of the things that we do that are not true. And I'll give you an example, like 2 weeks ago, we had this story about a dam that was leaking in somewhere in Njoro. Called Sonjami, which is not true. I was there last week and it's not true. So we want people to interact with us, to really understand, so that they are not just swayed by perceptions or issues that are not true. This is a good forum to interact with the public.
Thank you very much. Hannah, your closing remarks, especially for other florists out there in terms of being part of this conference, very briefly.
All I would want to tell them is to be ready to participate. Because once there's something new, it enlightens you in a great way. So if at all we can all come together, we be part of the team, we participate and we participate fully. With that, we can learn more and we'll be able to even move our business a step ahead. All
right, so let us try and appreciate this, and you can start by appreciating it by being part of this conference to understand what goes into the flower business so that you can be better positioned to make wiser decisions. The next time you're buying a flower and you're saying, Nikatie Bay. All right, we have been speaking with Hannah Nyingi, who is a florist and the director of Elysium Flower Designs and Decorations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we also have Mr. Clement Tulezi, who is the CEO of the Kenya Flower Council. Thank you very much for making time time to be with us this morning.
Yes.
Now that brings us to a close of Good Morning Kenya, but be sure to join us again tomorrow for another fantastic edition of Good Morning Kenya. On behalf of the entire crew, my name is Jerome Boy. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing. God bless. We have a news check coming up in a bit, so do stay with us.